Hi, I'm Alex Pault, and I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Talking Timepieces. Today, we're going to talk about this relatively rare Oysterquartz. It is a Rolex's, well, I shouldn't say only quartz watch, but it was the mainstream quartz watch that Rolex made for about 25 years. They only made about 25,000 during that period of time, so this is a relatively rare piece. Now, as you see, it says Rolex Oysterquartz Datejust on it. Superlative chronometer officially certified. So this is actually, yes, a certified chronometer, even though it is a quartz movement, which are known to be pretty accurate to begin with. And the interesting thing about this is it's actually a hybrid movement. It has a quartz controlled motor, temperature compensated, so that way when you're wearing it on your wrist, which is at a warmer temperature than your shelf or your coffee table or your nightstand or wherever you put your watch when you're not wearing it, which is obviously a cooler environment, the quartz crystal would actually speed up or slow down very, very slightly, but enough to throw the watch off by a few seconds a month. In the case of this, it uses a temperature compensated motor, so that way the crystal does not get impacted, or I shouldn't say the movement does not get impacted by temperature variations. Now, the first Rolex quartz was actually the Date 5100, also known as the Texan. And the interesting thing about that watch compared to this watch is they only made 1,000 of those and they sold quite well. But young Gerald Genta did the original case design for the Texan, and that's the case design that they used as a base for the Oysterquartz case. So a lot of people will tell you that this is a Genta design case, but it's not really a Genta design case. It's derived from a Genta design that he made for the first Rolex quartz watch, the Texan. Now, that was based on the original Beta 21 prototype movement created by the Swiss Horological Labs as they were trying to create the next generation of timekeeping. Now, the thing about this, as a hybrid movement, the quartz motor drives a 1 hertz Swiss escapement that then in turn makes the second hand go. So essentially there's a escapement fork. There's an escapement fork attached to this second hand, and that's how the second hand is doing the 1 second jumps. It's literally a jeweled escapement making the hand move. So this is, in actuality, a hybrid watch movement, not a straight up quartz watch in that purest sense of a stepper motor driving a couple of gears that move the hands. Now, this one is a especially nice piece. It's the two-tone blue-faced Datejust, and which is always a very popular color combination. Like here, watch check. I'm wearing my sub two-tone date. The gold and the blue go very nicely together. And in this case, I wear a NATO strap because I like it to be about the watch. Whereas, of course, in this, it's an integrated bracelet. And good thing it's a beautiful one because you can't really swap it out for anything. You'd have to have something custom made, I would imagine. Now, the first Oysterquartz came out in about 1978. And the interesting thing about it is Rolex thought it was the future, so it was actually finished to a higher level than all of the other automatic mechanical watches made by Rolex during that time period. They really thought this was going to be the future, and they put a lot of effort into it. The 5035 movement is the Datejust movement, and they also had this available in a day date with the 5055 movement. Now, the beautiful part about the Datejust is it's a standard Rolex Datejust in that sense. It's a beautiful suit watch, and it's got the Cyclops and screw-down crown. It's a water-resistant watch, the typical smooth Rolex back, and it's got the old folding clasp. It's a good, solid, positive clasp, but it's not on the par with the newer ones, but it was the clasp that all the watches used in the late 70s. So, This is just a beautiful piece of history from a time when the quartz crisis was making the Swiss watch companies look a little bit outside of the box, and Rolex went all the way outside of the box to this watch, which unfortunately wasn't as commercially successful as they wanted, but then it makes a lot of sense because what the quartz crisis did show us was that people do want a nice mechanical watch and are willing to pay for one, and not a lot of people were willing to pay Rolex prices for a quartz watch. And in fact, to this day, this watch is still worth a few thousand less than a used Submariner, for example. This watch is worth about 4,000 compared to a 6,000 used sub. Now, this one is actually probably worth a little bit more, not much more, but because I sent this one to Rolex for servicing, so this one has actually been completely renovated and restored by Rolex. It has a new face with super lume, interestingly. So a lot of people don't like having the face replaced on their Rolexes because of the patina, but I didn't collect this watch because of any vintage aspect. I wanted to collect this watch as an example of Rolex's watchmaking in this period of time, and so I'm very comfortable with it being a new, reconditioned, factory fixed, and it has a new warranty, as opposed to trying to fight to get the patina and leave the face on. I wanted this to be a perfect example of a new watch that just happens to be an Oysterquartz. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and I'll be more than happy to answer them. But this is Alex Paul for Talking Timepieces. Thanks for taking the time to watch.